All right, guys, I think we're live here. Just give me a quick second. And just like that, YouTube says we are live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sorry for the small delay. I had to reset my Wi-Fi. It happens sometimes. So really appreciate you all being here. Today we're going to talk about ghrelin and some studies. I just shared this over on my Instagram, and I'll pull up the image here that I shared. If we're not connected on Instagram, I would love to connect with you. I'm over at metabolic_Mike. And there was some pretty good engagement on this particular post. So I just wanted to, kind of share this with you all. And, I think it's really interesting. We tend to gravitate in the low carb community, as most of you are, keto, low carb, things like that. We tend to gravitate towards foods and things that are low calorie, low sugar, low carb, not necessarily low calorie, but we do focus on the macros. And it's interesting, the body is so, the circulatory mechanisms involved in satiety, appetite, the brain-based mechanisms are super fascinating. And so this researcher, and by the way, I learned all the different studies that I'm telling you about from this book right here, Why You Eat. Ooh, can you guys see that? It's really sunny here today in Seattle, which is nice, but it's hard for you to see this because sun is coming right through my window. And it looks like I need to crank up my volume a little bit. How's that? That should be a little bit better. Why You Eat, What You Eat by Rachel Herz. Why You Eat, What You Eat. She's a neuroscientist, I think from Brown University. Let me just pull it up real quick. Boston College. She does teach at Brown. So really interesting stuff. And so the particular study that we're going to talk about today is this one right here. And so this particular study was conducted by a Dr. Crum over at University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. Long story short, as you can see kind of right below, I think on this side, there was 46 individuals in the study. Here's what's unique about it. They were given the same shake, but it was just different labels. So one label had it was Sensei versus Indulgent. So the Sensei shake was supposed to be a smart shake. It was marketed as low calorie, low sugar, zero sugar. Now, the Indulgent shake was labeled as, even though it's same exact ingredients and so forth, right? Same exact macros, everything, same drink, but they were just advertised differently. And the point of this particular study was to see the post-meal changes in ghrelin. So as you know by now, we've talked a lot, and let me pull up this so you can kind of look at what we're both looking at right here. And this is a study. So I'm going to make this so you guys can see that. So here's what I shared on Instagram. So again, if we're not connected, if we're not friends on Instagram, it's metabolic_Mike. I would love to connect with you. So as you can see on this graph here, that red little circle that I drew, that was the attenuated ghrelin response. So basically you had 23 people in each arm of the study. The individuals that had the Indulgent shake, what happened is that after about 90 minutes, their ghrelin dropped, which should happen, right? Remember, ghrelin is a hunger hormone. It's increased when there's no fuel in the tank, so to speak, when you have low energy levels, when you're fasting, along those lines. And it should naturally go down after a meal. But because the individuals felt like, and they had this perception that they were drinking some guilt-free, zero sugar, oh my gosh, you know what's going to be messed up, guys? Is the audio is going to be, I am so sorry. Oh man, you heard some crappy audio. Gosh, I am so sorry about that. All right. How's that now? You were getting two different audio sources. Oh my gosh, how did I mess that up? How was that, guys? Was it okay or was it pretty bad? Hopefully that wasn't too bad. I realized that the audio was coming through two different channels just now, and I really, really apologize. So long story short, there was 23 people in each arm of the study. They were drinking the same shake that had different labels. The label that represented sugar-free, low-calorie, guilt-free, and so forth, the ghrelin level didn't drop like it should have in the post-meal window, which I think this is important. And so a lot of us are going and getting all these, sugar-free products, sugar-free, you name it, ketchup, sugar-free drinks, soda pops, stevia-sweetened soda pops, all that. And we think because it doesn't have calories, it doesn't have sugar, that it has no metabolic response in our body. And I think there's ample research now, this one study, but many animal model studies, many other human, and I know, it's kind of a catch-22. Like sometimes we want to use epidemiological studies and say, see, individuals that have synthetic sweeteners, they have increased risk of diabetes, but then the folks that, that eat eggs and their risk of heart disease is higher. We can't play it both ways, right? With epidemiology. we know that, epidemiology was created to kind of track disease more as in terms of infectious disease and so on. Nina Teicholz has talked a lot about that in her book. It's not the best for looking at nutrition. So with that as a caveat, we do know from several large epidemiological studies. So this was the EPIC study. So this was a European perspective. I can't remember what EPIC stands for, but if you Google European perspective EPIC, it will show up this study. This was 300,000 people, I believe, along with the health professional follow-up study and the nurses' health study. All those millions of people in those epidemiological studies that have been tracked for over a decade now show a correlation between consumption of non-nutritive sweeteners. So this would be sucralose, this would be ACE-K, this would be, any non-sugar-bearing sweetener, and an increased risk for type 2 diabetes, right? So keep that in mind. I'm not saying that anytime you have stevia, you're going to cause a problem, but remember that appetite and satiety, it starts with the cephalic phase of digestion. And that's kind of the take-home message of this short video, is to just have you all be reminded of the fact that digestion starts right here. So when we start to see food, when we're looking at food, when we're smelling food, and if we believe that a food is healthy, it changes the biology of how the food is processed in our body. So I do just want to check in to see what you guys are saying. So Joshua says, yeah, epidemiology, the gift that keeps giving us bogus studies. Someone says sound was good the whole time. Okay, good. Oh, that's good. I'm so glad that it was not messed up. And if you're watching the replay, you're like, Mike, come on, you always talk about the tech issues, and that's just how these live streams are. And the reason why I do these live streams, just as a small side step, I like to do these because they're quick. I can set something up and just share with you some of the research, and it doesn't take hours and hours to crank out content. So I can give you more content, albeit it's a little rough around the edges, the color's a little overblown, things along those lines, but that's just how we are. We're here live. This is unscripted and so on. So this study, I think it's super interesting. So here's a quote from one of the researchers. So our biases and our beliefs influence how the food is processed in our body. It's crazy, right? So if we think a certain food is healthy, we are generally, and I was talking a little bit about this earlier, we tend to overeat it. And so this was, again, Rachel Herz talks about it in this book, which is linked below, and I have the link to the studies and so forth. And I'm going to share some more studies on this because I just posted this on Instagram a few hours ago, and I was really surprised. It was like 150 people saved it, which for me, I know for other people it's not that many, but that's a lot of saves. And I was like, this is a topic that we want to address. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is Lane Norton shared a post earlier, and today in the post was basically to the effect that animal model studies show that synthetic sweeteners like sucralose don't really have an effect on the microbiome. So therefore, it doesn't really matter if you have Monster energy drinks, Red Bulls, synthetic sweeteners. Who gives a crap? It's all about calories in one regard. And so look, calories matter. It's not like calories don't matter, but again, appetite, satiety, all these neurohormonal, metabolic mechanisms, this network signaling hub, it influences our physiology. And so when we sense sweet, right, whether or not it garners or has a payload of glucose, it still affects this whole network. And it's all this web is interconnected, right? So our neuroendocrine system is connected to our fat cells. We know leptin communicates to the brain by way of the hypothalamus and so forth. We know that ghrelin affects the brain. And we know that our perceptions affect how much food we eat. And so, this I think it's super interesting. So here's my Instagram handle, guys. So and gals, if we're not yet connected, links are below. So I share a lot on Instagram stories. I share a lot of science and things like that. More on the regular on YouTube. We do stuff, several times a week and so forth. But I don't know. To me, and if you want to see the label, let me share with you this label, because this question did come up on Facebook on Instagram, and people wanted to know the differences between these labels. So I'm just going to kind of share these in real time. I'm taking a screenshot and I'm going to drop it into the feed here so you can see this. So this was the Sensei shake that was labeled as kind of the gluten-free, sugar-free, very guilt-free was the word that I'm looking for. So here's the Sensei shake label. So check this out, and then I'll pull up the indulgent shake. So again, the people that had this particular shake, and then, all right, you should see that right now. Whoa, why is it flashing? Oh my gosh, can you guys see that? All right, let me clear the layer and repost it. I've never had something like this happen before. I don't know what that is. So I'll have to post a screenshot later. Oh, you can see it now. So the Sensei shake, as you can see here, so it's zero fat, zero added sugar, only 140 calories, right? So it seems like it's very supposedly healthy and so forth. And then here is the indulgent shake, and it features kind of it's more like a very rich type, label look to it. It has this kind of perception that there's a lot of energy, maybe high calorie, and this sort of thing. And so this is what was given to the other people. But interestingly, the ingredients are the same. They're the same shakes. So you can hold on here. So let me drop this over. So there's the indulgent shake, and I think I can just stack them side by side, can I? Yeah, I can stack these guys side by side, so you guys can both see these things. Yeah. So anyway, I think this is super interesting. Just the perception that if you're having diet food, you're going to feel less full and more hungry later. And so I think it's something, again, for all of us to consider, because we have all these great companies with great intentions of creating low carb versions of the unhealthy stuff that we're used to. And I made this mistake when I went gluten-free, right? The whole gluten-free thing was coming on. So I got into paleo back in 2005. Really wanted to go study the paleo diet under Lauren Cordain and so forth. And then I moved to Denver, started working as a consultant. And then all the gluten-free started coming on board, folks like Robert Crayon and gosh, who else? There was a lot of people that were talking about the importance of going gluten-free. Who are some of the big ones? The Wheat Belly guy, he was coming out, and there was another, Tom O'Brien was another one who was doing a lot of education on, and then there was the Gluten Summit. There was a lot of this stuff, between 2007 and 2011. So I had this perception that if it's gluten-free, it must be healthy. And I was having a lot of gluten-free muffins, a lot of gluten-free cakes, a lot of gluten-free crackers. And I was buying into the stuff that we're talking about today, the perception. And again, I'll throw on this quote because I think it's really important. So this perception that food labeling has on our biology, and the placebo effect in the mind is so powerful, right? So if we start going to these conferences, which is good, I love going and educating and networking and all that, and and some of these Supply Side West and Expo West, which just happened I think 2 weeks ago, we start to see keto muffins, keto bread, keto this, keto that. Guess what? It's not necessarily a free pass. It's still energy. It's still carbohydrates, albeit lower versions probably that you may be getting, or there's synthetic versions of that. And when your tongue we can't outsmart our hedonic appetite satiety controlling mechanisms. That's kind of what I want to say without rambling on with this, right? And the study actually showed this, and many other studies of its kind have shown this, where individuals were eating trail mix, and one was labeled heart healthy, low sugar. Individuals ate twice as much of that trail mix compared to trail mix that was labeled with sugar, even though it was the same one. So there's a lot of these feeding studies that are super fascinating that have good research behind them in feeding labs, and they show that just the perception of low carb, low sugar, heart healthy, whatever, we tend to overeat that, right? So this is where kind of the energy balance model does come into play, and of course calories do matter. But I think if that's the only thing you're focusing on, you might be missing a big aspect of it. So wanted to just, kind of hop on here real quick, friends, and share that with you. Sorry, I was starting a little bit late. There were some Wi-Fi issues. I had to reset the Wi-Fi in this back room. So let's see what sort of questions you have, and we can just take it from there. So I'm going to pull up your questions here. Thanks for letting me know the sound was good. How to gain weight on OMAD. You might not need to do OMAD. So the 1 meal a day approach can be great for weight loss, for longevity, for enhancing autophagy, for time restricted feeding, lowering blood sugar, insulin. But for gaining weight, like if you're trying to build muscle, you got to throw in more meals in there. I don't know any bodybuilder that eats 1 meal a day. John M says, metabolic syndrome, TOFI here. Okay, so I see. So, thin on the outside, fat on the inside. So we've talked about that. Just because you're visibly not obese doesn't mean you're metabolically healthy. So John, I would suggest, we do have some meal plans over at courses.highintensityhealth.com, and we have fat loss through fitness and showing you the right exercises to do. But you might need to do more than just 1 meal a day. Fast Reps is in the house. Thanks for being here. I know you are on IG. You're always sharing stuff, which is really, really cool. Someone is saying, have patients that only drink diet drinks, hemoglobin A1C would still be high. Interesting. So that really goes on along with some of the epidemiological studies that show that individuals that have synthetic sweeteners tend to have higher levels of glucose intolerance. So super interesting stuff that a healthcare practitioner is saying they found that in their patients. Yeah, Chef Bay says, why are you OMAD if you want to gain weight, John? Yeah, John, we don't want to pick on you, but if you're trying to gain muscle, you need to eat more than once a day, buddy. I'm sorry. Just getting on from El Paso, Texas. Thanks for being here. Someone says it's hard when you get sick. Cough syrup and cough drops have sugar. I know. Isn't that keto, mama? Isn't that a pain in the butt? I mean, even for children's stuff, it's loaded with sugar. My daughter had a little cold, and we got some elderberry extract, and it was like 14 grams of fructose per tablespoon. I couldn't even believe it. Honest AF. Thanks for following me on Instagram. And guys, one thing I want to let you know. So if you like this sort of science, please hit that like button. I know you're like, oh, gosh, why do all these YouTubers say that? So YouTube, what they do is it's based on the algorithm. It's the likes to dislikes ratio. So if you want this more content like this, you just hit that like button. It really actually helps us. It takes no effort on your behalf. And then also next Tuesday we start the keto. That's another class we're doing. We start the autophagy enhancer masterclass. See, the cool thing about these live videos is if I was actually doing jump cuts, you would have never known that I just messed up because it would have been a jump cut. So on the live videos, you see all the screw ups, which is good or bad. So the autophagy enhancer masterclass, friends, starts next Tuesday, where we're going to talk about lysosomes, autophagy, macroautophagy, microautophagy, all that in much more depth. We're going to review the best exercises, the best foods, and then talk about, obviously, keto approaches. But one of the best approaches to enhance autophagy is not only just energy restriction, but glucose restriction. So we're going to talk about different ways to go about that. So links are below here, guys. We already have quite a few signed up, but we're kicking this thing off, and it's private because literally I spent about 90 hours putting this content together. It's tons of time. So, that's I wish I could do everything for free and just put it out there, every single thing. But I have bills just like you. And so to create content, like this, it's very in depth. We charge for it. So that class is $97. Links are below. But I believe it's one of the most comprehensive courses because for selfish reasons, I just wanted to get to know this, these mechanisms just like you do. And I'm summarizing it so you don't have to spend 90 hours trying to figure this stuff out. So if you're interested, we're starting this thing next Tuesday. What else we got? Nan says she's been interested in this topic for a long time. So I think this topic is regarding the cephalic phase of digestion, gut hormones, neuroendocrine responses regarding food and food labeling. I think it's super interesting. And so again, this doesn't mean that you have to be scared of eating, periodically having like a sugar-free soda or something like that, or a low sugar ice cream. It's not like that, but I don't want you to think that because you're swapping out high calorie foods with their sugar-free alternatives that it's totally safe and benign. And so this one study, and there's many other studies, and for those of you all just coming on, I'll just share with you this particular diagram, which I think it just tells a whole story. And basically, long story short, you have two people drinking the same drink, but half the group, and there was 23 people in each arm of the study, half the group was told that one was sugar-free, one was high calorie, one was low calorie, and one was high calorie. And they looked at the ghrelin responses in the post-meal window, and there's a dramatic difference. And the people that had the sugar-free, low-calorie drink, their ghrelin didn't drop like it should. And so what that meant is they felt less full and still were hungry, even though they had the same energy in the drink. So mindset matters, guys. It's super fascinating. So I can see that the sun is blaring. I'm probably so blown out, and this video is going to be super interesting. Anyway, so someone is talking about Dr. Barry here. So we do have Dr. Barry coming on the podcast. I'm finishing up that introduction as we speak. So let me just see if we have another couple questions here. And yeah, so I wanted this just to be short. I know a lot of you are busy. You don't have time for long videos and everything like that. We have quite a few on, which is amazing. So that's it for now, friends. I'm going to go back and check out your comments. I really hope you enjoyed this live video. Sorry for the 10-minute delay starting. I had to reset my Wi-Fi, so I know some of you were waiting there, and I really, really, really apologize for that. I hope you have an awesome day. I hope you enjoyed this. Links are below. This book will not bore you. If you like nutrition, definitely check it out. Why You Eat What You Eat by Rachel Herz. It's amazing. I'm trying to get her on the podcast. It's just a great book to help us. It's beyond the macros. It's a non. I want to say it's kind of a non-nutritive factor, right? We hear so much, we talk on this podcast about calories and energy and hormones and all this, but this talks about our perceptions and our beliefs, and the mind is so powerful. And so I think the point is we need to be aware that our beliefs and biases can cause us to overeat even the healthiest of foods in the wrong circumstances or situations that can cause us inadvertently to not hit the goals, right? And so I think this kind of ties into, there's a gentleman, a medical doctor, Spencer Nodosky, and he talks a lot about this on his channel, that people do kind of underestimate how much energy they're consuming. And I think that we can be prone to that. And even though we're eating healthy food, sometimes we can overeat it because we have this perception that it's healthy. So keep that in mind, guys. Again, if you like this video, please hit that like button. You can always tag a friend or family member. You can text this video to them and say, hey, dude, you're having all these synthetic sweeteners, and I know you think they're healthy, but this big study of 46 people conducted at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, showed that there's different metabolic responses in the post-meal window to low-calorie versus high-calorie perception of food. So it's important that we know this stuff, guys. Super grateful that you were here. Hope you have an awesome afternoon, evening. We'll catch you on the next live. And hope to see you in the Keto Lean Masterclass. And that's it. All right. Bye, guys.